Wow, stories.
My stepson expects me to pay for college after years of disrespect. So I show him the door and teach him a lesson in gratitude. Background: been with my partner for a long time, 3 children, 20-year-old female, biological, 18-year-old male, 25-year-old male. Step: having been involved with their lives from a younger age, the blended family concept wasn't as easy as I imagined. Children are smarter than you think and focus well on their surrounding environment. I would describe my relationship with the older son as very good. He initially was cautious and didn't trust me, which is normal. However, now we're quite close and open with each other. The youngest, not so much. I did not want to pressure him to like me or accept me, so the process was very gradual. As a kid, he wasn't too keen on activities and wished I would go away now. Occasionally in public settings, he referred to me by various terms as if he didn't know who I was and just found out I'm a guy with mom and sometimes mom's boyfriend, despite being married at the time. I'm assuming he viewed the term boyfriend with some more favorable meaning or significance back then. My wife tried too during that time, but he had already made up his mind even at that age, and I never took it in a negative light. Normal step-parent situations. As he grew older, our relationship became more formal and surface level. Basically, it's only about what is strictly necessary. At 15 years of age, he said it's not about me specifically, but I'm just not a parental figure to him, and I ought to establish a clear boundary. He's not interested in any conversation with me, no discussion, nothing. I'm a person who's sharing the living location, nothing more. And given I'm not a parent, I have no business getting involved in any major decisions of his. He's going to decide what's best for himself by himself. That was admittedly very difficult for me. But nonetheless, I eventually agreed to this boundary. Essentially, if there was a decision or general life situation, he doesn't ask for my advice, nor do I provide said advice to begin with. You do you, because I'm just the man who happens to live here. So I don't get a say in any of that. Again, as hard as it was to hear those words, I did agree. He wants nothing to do with me, and has announced clearly and directly as much. It doesn't get simpler than that, and my wife and I felt that he was old enough to be making such a decision, and if that's what he wants, then so be it. It's not something I've done, it's just the way it is. For additional context, my eldest has at least made an effort to understand my point of view, and allowed me to be some part of his world, even if we sometimes disagree. I recognize that this effort begins with me, and it isn't their obligation, but we eventually worked it out together to develop a strong mutual bond in a way that I couldn't with my other son. He and our daughter get along super well too. They are quite simply siblings in every sense of the term, though her and the youngest is somewhat of a different story. At least he does converse with her in regular terms and not legalese, but you can tell they don't like to be in the same room or spend more than about 10-15 minutes together before a verbal fight emerges. Now for the financial part of the story. My partner and I have worked our assess off to provide what I would describe as a comfortable life for all of them. They've gotten pretty much what they wanted, within reason, of course. And we were fortunate enough to support our eldest and our daughter through higher education. I've been really involved in that process and provided help and guidance along the way, just like any parent would. Importantly, meaning there was communication, back and forth dialogue. Fast forward to now, the youngest is in the planning for college phase. Naturally, I provided no input. He was free to choose whatever educational path he wished for and do whatever he wants. This includes what subjects he finds himself interested in, what stuff he's applying to, the whole deal. None of my business, and specifically, per his request to not interfere with his life. However, he expects me to foot the bill. All of it. I was taken aback by this, considering his decline to interact with me in any meaningful way for such a lengthy period of time. You don't want a relationship with me? That's fine. I understand, and I won't push the matter any further. But now you demand a relationship to my wallet? That's not going to happen so quickly. And I informed him I'm not his personal ATM. Maybe the comment was unjustified in hindsight, but it was in the heat of the moment. He flipped, declaring that I've never been there for him, wasn't there for his big moments, generally apathetic. And what really struck me as odd, a financial aggressor. Now you're free to label me whatever you wish. I don't care. But an aggressor? After all this time? I wasn't having any of it, of course, and I told him essentially, I'm not going to entertain his fantasy world. I'm no longer his bank account. And if he thinks he's with an aggressor, he's welcome to actually do something useful, get paid, and get out of here if that's what he thinks. Which I knew he wasn't going to do. Yeah, we totally got burned out 24/7 and reached our breaking points multiple times to be able to maintain a decent life for the needs of 3 kids at once because of abuse. Now, I'm conflicted. My partner thinks I kind of overreacted, made unnecessary comments, and could have phrased my viewpoint a bit better, but is neutral on the college situation. She says anybody who goes through what I've had to deal with and then gets thrown an outright proclamation like this would feel the same way. This is basically somebody telling you the equivalent of, yo, frick you. Also, hey bro, you got a few $1,000s? Okay, thanks. Bye. Straight to your face. But at the same time, it's already a tense situation. He might not deserve it, but this amounts to choosing a golden child and ignoring the rest. And if there was any hope in the metaphorical door being left open slightly, it's now permanently shut off. So treat it as a moment of rage, but not follow through. We do things sometimes because we have to, not because we want to. But I'm just confused. I don't know what to do anymore. Are those the actions of somebody who wants me? Am I even a human in all this? Or just a computer terminal where you press the denomination and out comes the cash? Can you hurt somebody so deeply? Let it be known in no uncertain terms you actively do not welcome their presence to all but frick off, and yet have the courage to even make such a demand of them. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He's not interested in any conversation with me, no discussion, nothing. I'm a person who's sharing the living location, nothing more. And given I'm not a parent, I have no business getting involved in any major decisions of his. He's going to decide what's best for himself by himself. He stated very clearly what you are. Basically, a silent roommate. Well, those aren't who you demand pay for your college education. He certainly can decide what's best for him, but not when it involves your money. Actions have consequences, as he is finding out. Comment 2, I responded on your other post. He gets what he gave out. Step-parents are not the de facto bank when the time comes for big expenses after they have actively shunned the other parent. They don't have to accept them as a parental figure, but can't go around treating them as strangers and then expect for bills to be paid. He has a mother, father, and grandparent that can pay for school. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for another update. 3 months ago, I never would have guessed things would spiral the way they did. It started with a bang, literally. My youngest son, in a fit of anger, punched a hole in the wall. The reason? I refused to pay for his college tuition up front. The tension in the house was thicker than ever. My wife, trying to play peacemaker, suggested a family meeting. It was a disaster. My eldest stepson, usually my ally, sided with his brother, saying I was being unfair. My daughter stayed quiet, her eyes darting around, clearly uncomfortable. I thought back to when my eldest stepson and I bonded over fixing up an old car. It wasn't just about the car, it was about trust, about building something together. That trust was now being tested. My youngest son's argument was that I had paid for his siblings' education, so why not his? He didn't care that our relationship was non-existent. To him, I was just a source of funds. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the money, but about the principle. I wanted to support him, but not without some form of mutual respect. He scoffed at that, accusing me of playing favorites. The argument escalated. My wife, usually the voice of reason, was torn. She understood my point, but also felt for her son. She suggested a compromise. We pay for his first semester, and he tries to rebuild our relationship. I was against it. It felt like rewarding bad behavior. But when I looked at my wife, I saw the strain in her eyes. This was tearing her apart, so I agreed. The first semester came and went. My son's grades were decent, but there was no attempt at reconciliation. He barely spoke to me, except to ask for the next semester's tuition. I felt like a fool. I had hoped for a change, but there was none. My wife urged patience, but I was running out of it. Then the bomb dropped. My daughter, who had been quiet throughout all this, confessed that she was pregnant. She was scared and unsure what to do. My wife and I assured her we'd support her decision, whatever it was. But my youngest son saw it as an opportunity. He argued that if we could support her, we could certainly afford his tuition. The audacity of it left me speechless. I snapped. I told him that if he couldn't show the slightest bit of respect or gratitude, then he could pay his own way through college. My wife was horrified. She said I was being too harsh, that he was still just a kid. But he wasn't a kid. He was an adult making adult demands, without adult responsibilities. The fallout was immediate. My youngest son moved out, crashing with friends. My wife was heartbroken, blaming me for his departure. My eldest stepson was disappointed in me, and my daughter was caught in the middle of a family falling apart. I had hoped my decision would be a wake-up call for my son. Instead, it pushed him further away. My wife and I argued constantly, the stress straining our marriage. I lay awake at night, wondering if I had made the right choice. I thought about my stepson's car, how we had worked on it together, how it had brought us closer. I had lost that with my youngest son, and now I was losing my family. The house was quieter, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the silence of a broken home. I still believe in principles, in mutual respect, but the cost was higher than I ever imagined.